ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्दशनाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं ईश्वरपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च रूपं साग्रजातं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी विशपानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. So we will continue the 15th chapter. We saw the inverted banyan tree and the 5 shlokas, how the inverted banyan tree represents the material world, or the conception of the material world that lies in our desire or in the mind, and then how to cut it off, and then how to surrender to the Supreme Lord and reach the supreme spiritual abode. So these were mentioned, and now it is the description about the abode of the Lord. So what is, now how does this abode of the Lord look like? So that is mentioned here. So like in a way that is easily understandable for us, the Lord is explaining about his spiritual world. The volume is mild. Okay, just a minute, I'll just see the audio settings. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. I will try to speak a little loud. I think the volume is maximum. Okay. So natad bhashayate shuryo na sashanko na pavakah yad gatva na nivartante tadama paramam mama. Sorry. That supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Right? So this is a nice description of the spiritual world that is there. So which is not illuminated by sun or moon, and not by fire or electricity. So pavakaha means like fire, but here it's also the electricity is also given. So that's a modern conception that we have. So with electricity, we actually illuminate our rooms. So in that way, so the supreme abode of the Lord is self-effulgent. So this is one very nice thing that is mentioned. So why amongst all those wonderful things, why this particular thing is mentioned? Because this material world is full of darkness. By nature, everything is dark. Everything is this one. Without sun, without light, no, we cannot have any illumination. So, but in the spiritual world, such a need is not there. So it is always bright. And second thing is, those who reach it never return to this material world. So it is a permanent place, not to say. So these are two important things that are mentioned about the spiritual world. Okay, purport. The spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity, because all planets are self-luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous. But all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of those planets, called the Vaikunthas, constitute the shining sky known as the Brahma Jyotir. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by Mahatattva, or the material world. Right? So the whole spiritual sky, everything is fully illuminated by the effulgence that is coming from the planet of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan. Sometimes it is also explained as the effulgence that comes from the toenails of Krishna. So it's basically like the effulgence is coming from Krishna, in either it's coming from his body or from his planet, from his abode, which is non-different from him. So that illuminates everything in the creation. So then how is this material world is dark? Because it is covered by a cloud of Mahatattva, or the material nature, So that is making the material world dark. But in essence, everything that exists in the whole creation is illuminated only by this covering of Mahatattva. So this material world is dark. Okay, other than this, the major portion of that shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called Vaikunthas, the chief of which is Goloka Vrindavan. So there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets are there. So the chief amongst all the Vaikuntha planets is Goloka Vrindavan. So as long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, by cutting through the false perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditional life, the living entity considers himself to be the lord of this material world, but in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut the attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. Right? So it is very nicely put. What is a key aspect for us to get to the spiritual world is we have to develop Krishna consciousness. And how do we develop this Krishna consciousness? By association of people who are really die hard, no Krishna conscious, really very, very interested in Krishna consciousness. So it is basically coming from the association. If we see a person who is really very absorbed in the process of devotional service, then we will get that kind of absorption by his association, right? So it's all, the key is there in the association. That's where the whole thing lies. And here Prabhupada is writing, one should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service, right? Okay. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service, as described in the 12th chapter, is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. The real tree is there in the spiritual world. The false tree is there in the desire or in the mind, in the platform of mind. And this can be cut only by the devotional service that is explained in the 12th chapter, that is to become very, very absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord. Okay, in chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. The words Paramam Mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the spiritual world is Paramam, full of six opulences. The Katha Upanishad 2.2.15 also confirms that in the spiritual world there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam. For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. Right? So we have, if we want to travel to some place, we have a lot of means, either by flight or by road travel or maybe some sea travel and things like that and all, or by some arrangement. We can actually, if we win a prize, then we can go to some place and things like that. So this supreme abode of the Lord, the Paramdhama, so it cannot be achieved through any other process other than surrender unto the Supreme Lord, through the devotees of the Lord. Okay. Text 7. Mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhutah sanatanaha manah shasthani indriyani prakritistani karshati. So the previous sloka was talking about the spiritual world, and this sloka is talking about the living entity who are stuck in this material world. So we have to reach that spiritual world, and that's our goal. And what is our current state of existence? That is mentioned in the text 7, right? Mama eva amsha. No, he is like my own amsha. No, is like Lord is telling. And jiva loke, like they are in the world of conditional life. And then Jiva Bhuta is the living entity, conditioned living entity is called Jiva, and liberated living entity is called Brahma Bhuta. No, Jiva Bhuta means conditioned living entity, and Brahma Bhuta means liberated living entity. Right? So Jiva Bhuta and Sanatana, no, he is eternal. And Manaha Shashtani Indriyani, right? So, like including the mind, there is uh, like six Sashta Indriya, no, Manaha Shashtani Indriyani. So, like Indriyani means the senses. So, the senses are five senses are there, the primary, no, like including the mind, it becomes six. So, there is sometimes the senses are counted as six, sometimes the senses are counted as five or 10. No, like 10 means like both working senses and the knowledge acquiring senses. And 6 means like knowledge acquiring senses plus mind. And 11 means knowledge acquiring senses and working senses plus mind. No, like that. So these different numbers actually come. So when we call Sashta Indriya, Shashtani Indriyani, so Sashtani Indriyani means like six senses. That means it naturally includes the mind. And Krishna also specifically mentions that Manaha Sashtani Indriyani. Prakriti Stani Karshati. Now he is struggling very hard in this material existence. The living entity in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts, Mama Eva Amsha, right? And due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind, right? Purport. In this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally, right? So it is not that he assumes individuality in his conditional life and his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is called, it is clearly said, Sanatanaha. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva and the secondary expansions are called living entities. So, this we have many times discussed this thing, Swa Amsha and Vibhinna Amsha, or Vishnu Tattva or Jiva Tattva. So, this Swa Amsha means one's own Amsha, like here also the Lord is telling Mama Eva Amsha. So, we are all Amsha only, but there are two kinds of Amshas are there. So, one is Swa Amsha and Vibhinna Amsha. So, one is differentiated or separated expansions, another is like personal expansions. So Swa Amsha means Vishnu Tattva. He is non-different from the Supreme Lord. The Lord expands himself into many, many Vishnu forms. So they are non-different from the Supreme Lord. And the Lord also expands into living entities. No, these are separated expansions. No, these expansions are not as good as the Supreme Lord. They are different, right? So they are called living entities. And the living entities are separated expansions. No, Vibhinna Amsha. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Rama, Narsimhadeva, Vishnumurti, and all the predominant deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternally servitors, right? So the Lord doesn't need to recruit anybody for being his servants. He just expands himself. No, no, his servants. We are his servants, and we are expansions of the Supreme Lord, right? So that's how it is. And the personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual living entities of the Godhead are always present. Similarly, the separated expansions of the living entities have their identities, right? So, like all the Vishnu Murtis, they are always existing. It is not that when Lord takes avatar of Narsingadev, no, immediately something is cooked up, some form is cooked up. No, it's not like that. The form of Narsimhadev is permanent. Nothing is temporary in in Lord's dictionary. Everything is permanent, right? So, in the material world, only the material forms keep changing. The material energy is also permanent. So, the material energy can display different forms. Now, I have a keychain. So this is one particular form. So tomorrow this can be disintegrated and made into another form. No, but the sum total of all the matter that is there, that is permanent. No, and only the forms that the matter can take. No, that is that can vary. No, different forms can be there. But then everything that is there is permanent. The Lord's forms are permanent. The living entities are permanent. Everything is sanatana, right? So everything is permanently existing. Okay. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities. The fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the living entities, also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. Right? So, if we are a fragment of the Supreme Lord, so then we will have his qualities also, All the qualities which the Lord has, we also have, but in fragment, in small portion. So, of which one quality is independence. So, we also have independent thought process. So, that is there. And this independent thought process is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. He has the onus, whether to fulfill or not to fulfill, but he makes a note, and every one of our desires are made note of, and at some point in time, it will be fulfilled. Okay, every living entity as an individual soul has its personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul, and by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from this material condition, and he is under the engagement of transcendental service of the Lord. Right? In his conditional life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature, and he forgets transcendental loving service of the Lord. So here we see either we have to be in shelter of the spiritual energy of the Lord, or we have to be under the shelter of material energy of the Lord. So we have to be under some shelter. No, we cannot be without any shelter. That is not possible. So uh, I cannot say, okay, I will not be there in material energy, and I will not be there in the spiritual energy of the Lord also. No, I'll be nowhere. So that is not possible. No, we have to be in one of the shelters. No, that is very much mandatory. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world because he is there in the modes of nature. He has to struggle his way through. The living entities, not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, uh, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations. The word karshati, struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains. He is bound by the false ego, and the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence. When the mind is in mode of goodness, his activities are good. When the mind is in mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when the mind is in mode of ignorance, he travels in the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses. And when he is liberated, this material covering perishes. But this spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity. The following information is there in the Madhyan Dinayana Shruti, Madhyan Dinayana Shruti. Sava Yesha Brahmanishta Idam Shariram Martyam Atishrij Atishrijya Brahma Bi Sampadya Brahmana Pashyati Brahmana Shrunoti Brahmanai Vedam Sarvam Anubhavati. Okay, so this is Brahmanishta Idam Shariram Martyam Atishrijya. So here we see that it is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment, he enters into the spiritual world. He revives the spiritual body, right? And in his spiritual body, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is, right? So this is very nicely mentioned that Brahmanishta, like no one who's fully thoroughly fixed in the Brahman, no, or fixed in the Krishna consciousness. So idam shariram martyam, no, when this idam means this shariram, this material body, when he gives it up. So what happens? No, Brahma bhi sampadya. No, he actually meets the Supreme Lord personally, and then Brahmana pashyati. He actually pashyati means to see. No, directly he sees, and shrunoti means like to hear or to speak and hear and things like that. So like he can speak and hear, the Lord, and then like he will have all anubhavati, no, sarvam anubhavati. So like no, we will have the direct experience of the Lord, no, that is there. So this is the thing, no, when like what is the precondition for that? Brahmanishta, we have to be there in full thorough Krishna consciousness, and then idam shariram martyam. So when we die, in such a kind of a consciousness, Brahmanishta consciousness, so then we actually go to the spiritual world and meet the Supreme Lord face to face, speak with him, and like reciprocate with him, or like have a relationship with him personally, right? So that happens. Okay. From Smriti, also it is understood Vasanti yatra purushaha sarve vaikuntam murtayah. In the spiritual planets, everyone lives in the bodies featured like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, Vasanti means to live. Yatra, like purushaha sarve vaikunta murtayah. So no, I'm not able to construct the Sanskrit. This one, little, we are trying to learn. Okay, anyways. So in the spiritual planets, everyone lives in a bodily feature, just like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as the bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entity and expansions of Vishnumurti. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Mamai Vamshaha, so Mama Eva Amshaha, means fragmental parts and parcels of Supreme Lord are also very significant. The fragmental portions of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. No, Prabhupada is giving this one nice perspective to it. No, materially, if I break a particular object, it looked like okay, it was together before and it is broken, right? So, but Prabhupada is just bringing to our notice in the second chapter we studied the soul can never be cut into pieces. No, then what is the point of broken? No, this one fragment. So it's not broken fragment means not like a material broken fragment. It is eternally fragment. No, from the date of our existence, there is no date as such. Like no, always we have been eternally separated only. Like we have never been together. So means we are never like we are one with the Lord, and then we are become separated for having our individual consciousness. We were always separated only. Okay. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word Sanatana, eternal, is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of second chapter that each and every individual body, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. Dehi nosmin yata dehe. Right? So the fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. It is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one with the Lord, just as the parts and parcels of the gold are also gold. Okay. Text 8. Shariram yad avapnoti yachapyutkramatiishvarah गृहीत्वैथानि सम्याति वायुर्गन्धानि निवाशयत्. Okay. The living entity in the material world carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another. As the air carries aromas, thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Purport. Here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. The minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or a dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. Now, this is very nice. Like in the previous shloka, we saw that from that Vedic text, it was quoted that Brahmanishta, idam shariram martya, something like that. It was there, right? So when we become fully fixed in Krishna consciousness and give up our body, then we go to this Krishna Loka planet. But if we have developed a consciousness of cat and dog, oh, this is my territory, this is not your territory, and fighting and things like that and all, so then we will become a cat or a dog, no? Or if we develop little godly qualities, we will become at most demigods. but we have to be absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. No, then we will get back to the spiritual world. Okay. It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. Individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. So here it's nicely explained how, right now we are living this life and we are preparing the next life. Our subtle body is actually forming the next already, like the subtle body will get it has formed a particular kind of personality, and when we take birth in the next life, so we will already, the body is conceived here, through our activities, and we will be attracted to a appropriate, mother and father, and we will take birth there, according to our karma, according to the shape of our, like the subtle body that it has developed. So, it will get attracted to a particular mother and father. So it will go there. Okay. Text 9. Shrotram chakshuhu sparshanam cha rasanam granameva cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and senses of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So now, like as we had studied in the previous this one, the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, is already changed to it's already like programming the next body actually. And at the point of death, whatever is the development, whatever is the kind of transformation that we have made in our subtle body, according to that, we will get another body. According to that, we will get senses, and we will be allowed to enjoy in the next life, right? Or exploit the material nature in the next life. Purport. In other words, if living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in the next life he gets a cat or dog body and enjoys. Consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure, but consciousness is changed according to the association of material qualities. So Prabhupada is giving a very, very amazing example here to explain this particular concept. Many times people ask this, oh, we are pure spiritual souls. Like, then how are we contaminated? Then the spirit can be contaminated or spirit cannot be contaminated. So this argument is very nicely answered here. Just like water is pure, but if we mix a color, then it changes its color. In the same way, consciousness is pure, but if it's affected by the material qualities, then it acts like a material thing, right? Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 84 lakh species of life. Okay, text 10. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bunjanam va gunanvitam vimuda nanu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Okay. So here the same thing, the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what kind of body he enjoys. So the same thing was mentioned, Dehi nosmi neta dehi kaumaram yavanam jara, tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. Dhira means a person who's controlled his senses. That means a person who is knowledgeable. No, without knowledge, we cannot control senses. So like it's controlling of the senses, knowledge, happiness, all these things are synonymous in one sense. No, like if somebody is happy, no, in true sense, that means he has controlled his senses. That means he is knowledgeable. No, all these things are synonymous. right? So Dhira and here Jnana Chakshusa. So it is all of of a similar kind of a category of words, right? And the same thing is mentioned here also. The foolish people cannot understand how the living entity is quitting one body and going to another body, but one who's trained in the process of knowledge, he will be able to understand this thing. Okay, the word Jnana Chakshushaha is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures, heard from a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under certain circumstances and he is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Okay, so now we see here one nice thing to contemplate about. So we have done this exercise before also on the same subject, but still it's very, very purifying. Every time we do this thing. So here we see that a person to perceive how a person is quitting a body and taking another body, it requires knowledge. This requires great amount of knowledge. It's mentioned here, right? And so that is understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures, heard from bona fide spiritual master, and one who's trained in know how to perceive all these things is fortunate. So now the aspect is, we have, as I mentioned, we have asked this question before also, and the devotees had given very nice answers. So now, like, what is this knowledge all about, and how to get this knowledge? Somewhat is here also, but then a little more deeper sense. What is meaning of knowledge and how to get the knowledge? Devotees, if they want, they can unmute also, or they can type. So if anybody wants, they can unmute also.
Prabhu, to understand that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. That is the main knowledge which is required to understand.
So how will we get that?
So that we can learn from the bona fide spiritual parampara.
So it is a matter of learning. It is a matter of learning a subject like how we have learned in our schools and colleges, or it is over a period of time it is revealed.
It is how we realize it, how quickly we realize it. So the moment we learn that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul, the early we realize it, the better.
So
the knowledge is there. Yeah. Yes, bro.
Like what plans you will make to get this knowledge? For personally,
to get this knowledge through, or to realize, basically apply it.
No, to come to the state of we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. That is what is meaning of getting the knowledge. So to come to that state, what plans we should or you will take personally. What steps you may take personally?
So whatever instructions are given in the parampara, that has to be followed. So we always say it is revealed scriptures. So it will be revealed only if we follow in the footsteps. So the plan should be to follow under the instructions of Guru.
Yeah, amazing. So the knowledge is like revealed. So we follow, we study Bhagavad Gita, we chant the names of the Lord, and then the Lord becomes pleased by this endeavor, or the spiritual master becomes pleased by this endeavor. The moment they become pleased, immediately the knowledge gets uncovered, and then we are getting the knowledge. So in the material sense, like no, we just go and attend a class, and then we are getting to know some points, and we make note of the points, and if we know that points, then we are knowledgeable. So we have that knowledge with us, right? So but in the spiritual sense, when we say no, study the Bhagavad Gita, like and trained by a bona fide spiritual master, the processes we follow, and then we please them, and when they become pleased, then the knowledge becomes revealed, the knowledge becomes available to us, right? And then more we commit offenses or indulge in the three modes of nature, the knowledge becomes covered, right? So it is, there is one nice sloka is there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti Sadhya Kabunai. No, this Krishna Bhakti is the real knowledge. No, as we have mentioned that difference between body and soul is the first level of knowledge. Then after that, understanding that body is there, soul is there. In soul also, it is not all souls are same. There is super soul is also there, the Paramatma, that is little more developed knowledge. And then still more further developed knowledge is that body is there, the soul is there, and Paramatma is there who is managing everything. But on top of it, the Parama Purushottam, the Supreme Lord Krishna is also there. And he is personal, and we can have reciprocation and dealings with him and things like that. That is even more deeper knowledge, right? So how will we get to know this knowledge? So this is Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti Sadhya Kabunai. No, like it is, we cannot understand it by any kind of sadhana or by our own endeavor and things like that. So like Sadhya Kabunai, Shravanadi Suddha Chitta Karaya Udai. So when we do Shravanadi, that means Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, all those 9 forms of devotional service. And why by doing those devotional service, no, we will have Shuddha Chitta, because Vidunoti Suhrit Satam today morning, like Prabhuji, Maharaj was very nicely explaining, when we do this process of devotional service, the Chitta becomes, the consciousness becomes clear. Why? Because like Krishna personally enters and cleanses, because Krishna becomes pleased with the living entity. And when Krishna becomes pleased with the living entity, what does he do? Like he says, Tesham eva anu kampartam aham ajnana jam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. When I become very, very merciful upon somebody, I destroy their ignorance and light the lamp of knowledge. Right? So that's another way it is mentioned, Vidunoti Suhrit Satam in the Bhagavatam. And in the today's morning verse also is like, no, something similar word had come. So Maharaj was explaining that point. So this point is like, we are following all the spiritual practices. The practice in itself is not going to save us. The practices, why these practices we are doing? Because it is pleasing to the Lord, pleasing to the spiritual master. And when they become pleased by our endeavor, so then the knowledge becomes uncovered. And when we engage in 3 modes of nature, or when we engage in offensive actions, then the knowledge becomes covered, right? So this is how this thing is. No, it is always there. This knowledge is always there with us, but it just gets covered or uncovered. And uncovering processes to engage in Shravanadi Chuddha Chitta, like to engage in the Navavida Bhakti, and that is the primary source of uncovering the this one knowledge. And that like deeper sense of knowledge means to understand our relationship with Krishna. So all these things will happen seamlessly if we just engage in the process of devotional service and for the pleasure of this Guru and Krishna. So then all the things will be revealed, everything will be uncovered. So this sincerity of purpose is very, very important. So that's why mechanical sadhana will not give us the appropriate result, because the attitude to please the Supreme Lord is very much important. So today morning Maharaj was mentioning that also. The sadhana, doing sadhana in itself is not sufficient. The attitude towards the attitude of the performer towards that sadhana is very important, right? So that is when it will work. So if we have the attitude that I want to please the Lord, so that's why I have to chant, so then we will make advancement. If we think that I have to finish my 16 rounds, that's why I have to chant, so we will only get finishing 16 rounds. That's all. We will not get anything more than that. So we have to have this attitude of pleasing the Supreme Lord. No, that's a very important thing. Okay. So every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under certain circumstances. He is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power to understand their change of body and their stay in a particular body. Know why this is? No, like this persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire. That means they are engaged in three modes of nature. So if they are engaged in three modes of nature, then the knowledge is sufficiently covered by the dense darkness of lust. No, so lust means nothing but darkness. No, it just covers our real identity, right? So that's what is happening there. So they cannot comprehend it. No, they cannot see what is the reality, right? So Krishna is just there in the heart, but they cannot see because dense darkness is there between ourselves and Krishna in the form of lust. Okay, so those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying in different ways, right? So we have heard this many, many times, but we are not able to perceive because our covering of lust is very strong and Chetodarpana Marjanam has to happen very, very strongly. And we need to have, every time we read this thing, we should owe for ourselves that next time when I sit down for chanting, I must focus a lot. No, I must really do it for the pleasure of Krishna. This is the Yoga Dharma, and I have to do it with like full intensity. No, why I should do? Because my spiritual master has asked me to do the 16 rounds. No, because it is pleasing to Krishna. No, the Shravanam Kirtanam, no, this now with the bhakti is very, very pleasing to Krishna, very, very pleasing to the spiritual master. So that's why I have to do for their pleasure. So then, no, in that way, like we can be purified. And even when we are asking for purification, so we ask for why we have to ask for purification? Because in the pure, purified consciousness, I can understand who Krishna is and I can appropriately serve him. All this while, I have only been giving him pain. No, I sometime I want to serve him for his pleasure, right? So I want to get purified just to offer pleasure to Krishna and not for anything else, right? Okay, so um, so here we see that the body is changing and it's and enjoying in different ways. A person is in such knowledge, no, that means the spirit soul is there, and then he is just seeing that my body is just changing and it is just happening. Some material interaction is happening. So such kind of a person in knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entities is suffering in the material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to people in general. Okay, so now the aspect of like we saw that what is knowledge? Knowledge means either to know the difference between body and soul, or to know that body, soul, and Paramatma, or to know that body, soul, Paramatma, and the Bhagavan, and to having a relationship with him. So these are all different aspects of knowledge. And how to get it? I have to please the Supreme Lord. The Lord will cleanse my heart, and then I'll be able to the knowledge will get uncovered. But this is okay. Now, if I have to give this knowledge to somebody, then how will I give? Can I stop somebody in the street and then just give a lecture, about Krishna consciousness? Will he change? So what is it that is going to change? What is it that is, what is it meaning giving the knowledge to somebody else? Means, giving the knowledge to somebody else means to have Krishna in the heart and to sincerely pray to the Lord that may this person become Krishna conscious. And in that way, the knowledge transfer actually happens. It is not by our lecture, it is going to happen. No, it is not by our like logical presentation and things like that, it is going to happen. It is the intensity of Krishna consciousness that we have, the intensity with which, or the degree to which the Lord is manifest in our heart, or the knowledge is uncovered in our heart. That much degree we can actually influence, we can actually give an experience of that knowledge to other person. No, if we don't have the knowledge, if our heart is completely covered with lust, then we cannot make another person experience what is knowledge. That is not possible. Right? So first of all, an intense experience of Krishna consciousness is required, and that intensity we can actually pass it on to another person. So this is the transmission of knowledge. So like schools and colleges we have seen, like we have also taught sometimes, like where No, we study a subject nicely, and then we can just go and give a lecture on that subject, and the knowledge transmission happens. But Krishna consciousness doesn't happen like that. Krishna consciousness knowledge transmission means know how much Krishna is there in our heart, or how much we have reduced the covering of lust in our heart, how much the knowledge has become uncovered, that much we can actually give an experience of knowledge to another person. And when he feels that experience, he will hanker for it. Oh, this is so wonderful. The experience of this person, I met with this person, and then the interaction was so amazing. Why? Because he experienced Krishna through us. And then like he will also hanker for it, and then we'll say, okay, fine, you also try to follow the instructions, you also try to please this, the Supreme Lord, then you will also be able to uncover this knowledge within you, right? So in that way, like that is the way of giving this knowledge to another person. So if we don't have Krishna in our heart, we cannot give Krishna to others. This transmission of knowledge is not going to happen, right? So for their conditioned life, okay, so this is like, therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to people in general, for their conditioned life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world, right? So this is the way of distributing this knowledge, right? So with this, we will stop today's discussion, and let's try to intensify our devotional service. Let us try to pray to the Lord with more intensity, and for begging that may we become purified, and may we be able to render some service to Krishna with the purified senses, right? And then to offer pleasure to Krishna. That's our goal. And in this way, we will be able to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. And in the process, we should also induce others to also surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Right? So let's try our best and intensify our devotion in this way. Hari Hari. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai, and Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.